Hey everybody, let us take a look at multiplying larger numbers, like two-digit numbers times two-digit numbers. Let's start off first with a two-digit number times a one-digit number. Now, you remember at the beginning of the year, I told you would never need to multiply anything larger than 9 times 9. And now I'm asking you to do something crazy like 24 times 3. So how does that work? Well, remember, when we're doing a problem like 24 times 3, what we're really doing is adding 24 3 times. It's like 24 plus 24 plus 24. And a lot of us still do multiplication this way. But I'm going to show you that they're really not that different. All right? So when we add 24 plus 24 plus 24, we start in the ones place. And let's see what happens. We'll do 4 plus 4 plus 4, and we get 12. Okay? Now, pay really close attention. I want to point out that when you get to 12, you carry the 1 over to the tens place. Okay? So if these two problems are the same thing, how does that work in multiplication? Well, we start off with the ones place, and we multiply 3 times 4. Right? And we get 12, and we write it the same way. We write the 2 in the ones place, and we carry the 1 over to the tens place. Right? Because really, in 12, the 1 represents 10, one group of 10. Okay, so let's go back to our addition. When we're adding again, what do we do next? Well, we add the tens column. We have 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 1 makes 7. So how does that work in multiplication? Well, it's the same thing. We're going to do 3 times 2 plus the 1. And that makes 72. See, these two things are equal problems. Okay? Now you might say, well, Mr. Meyer, the adding is easier for me, so I'll stick with that. But let's take a look at what happens if we multiply 24 by a larger number. But first, I want to point out to you, here we just multiplied 3 times 4 and 3 times 2. See, nothing bigger than 9 times 9. We took the 24 and broke it apart into littler pieces. So your multiplication table, those facts are all you need for any multiplication problem, even if it's big like 24. Okay, let's look at an even bigger one. Let's try 24 times 53. Right? We're going to start off in the ones place, just like we did last time. Right? We're going to say 24 plus 24 plus 24. And we know how that ends, right? We're going to do the 3 times 4 and then the 3 times 2. Right? 3 times 4 was 12. We carry the 1. And the 3 times 2 was 6. Plus the 1 makes a total of 72. Right? Just like last time. It's exactly the same. Even though this number is 53, think of the 3 being by itself. Okay, so that's our step 1. We are just multiply by the ones place. Right? And I'm talking about the ones place in the bottom number here. We multiply by the ones place. Right, now I'm going to erase this here. Remember now, I don't want you to erase your work when you're doing problems, but I'm really just erasing the notes, right? These little illustrations that show you how the multiplication works. So don't get carried away with erasing things. All right, so let's do the next thing, which is we need to clean house. We've talked about cleaning house before, and usually that just means crossing out any numbers that you've carried. Right? We need to get rid of those numbers up above there. And it also means adding a 0 to the ones place. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But it is one of the most important things you need to remember. When we're multiplying by the tens place, you need to add an additional 0 down here, a place value to hold that empty place. Okay? It needs to go right there. That's because we're multiplying by the tens place, and we want our answer to start right here in the tens place. Okay, let's find out why. So if the other problem was 3 times 24, this one must be 50 times 24, right? So I'm going to write 24 50 times and add it all up. No, I'm just joking. That would be impossible, right? That would be impossible. Let me back up a little bit here. And this is where lots of us break down, right? When they have to write 24 50 times, that's when they give up. But I want to show you this trick. You don't have to write it 50 times. You just have to write it 5 times, or just know how to do 5 times 24, right? It's because when you're multiplying by something in the tens place, remember, we put that extra 0 out there on the end. Okay? Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute because it's important. All right, let's do our math now. Let's see, we have a 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4. Let me back up a little bit, I apologize. And that makes 20. So we write the 0 and we carry the 2, right? So in our multiplication problem, remember these two things are equal. What are we going to do? Well, we're going to write the 0 and we're going to carry the 2. Okay, just like we did in the addition problem. All right, so what's next? Well, we're going to add up the 2's, the 20's, right? 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus the 2 on top. Don't forget, what does that make? Just say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That's 5 2's plus 2 is going to make 12. So in our multiplication problem, we're going to do 5 times 2 plus the 2 on the top, and that makes 12. And we write the 12. Okay, I want you to point out that what we did 5 24's, and that equaled 120. And that's what we wrote over here. 5 times 24 came out to be 120. Okay, that is step 3. But let's talk about that 0 first. Remember, if you can do 5 times 24, which we just did, that makes 120, right? But remember, we're talking about 5 in the tens place. That makes a 50. This over here is a 50. So let's make this a 50. Okay, so 50 times 24 means we just add an additional place value. There's that extra 0 again, right? That extra 0 that we put there is that extra 0, is this extra 0 over here. Okay, because we're multiplying by 50, not 5. But we pretend it's 5 just to make it easier. So don't forget to put it in there. All right, let's continue. That was step 3. I apologize, but part of cleaning house is adding that 0 in. I keep talking about that 0 because it's so important. All right, step 3 is what we just did, and that's multiply the tens place. That was the 50 times 24. Okay, now again, I'm going to get my eraser and clean up a little bit here. Again, I'm just erasing the notes that I'm using to try and show you what's going on. Okay, so what do we do now? Well, we have our 3 times 24, and we have our 50 times 24. Really, but what we're being asked to find at the very beginning was 53 times 24. Right? So what we want to do is add these two groups together, because that would answer the question, right? We wanted to know how much was 53 groups of 24. So we have to take the 3 and the 50 and add them up. So let's do that. And we get 1,272. That's 53 groups of 24. Okay, so that's our fourth step, right? Fourth step is add up all the parts, the 3 groups and the 50 groups, get them all put together. Right, and when we're done, we can check these out. Right, we did our step 1, which was 3 groups of 24. That was the ones place. We did our step 2, which was 50 groups of 24. And then we cleaned house a little bit. That's our step 3 and added the extra 0. And now step 4, we added them together. Right? And that answers the question, how much is 53 groups of 24? Okay, so remember, what you're doing is simple multiplication. It's just 3 times 4 and 5 times 2, and just simple facts that you can look up. The other thing to remember is you're just doing, you're going to add those groups together at the end. Okay? So take it easy, one step at a time. It's all just simple multiplication and simple adding. Okay, good luck.